Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to my channel, DB Designs and Sewing Australia. I'm Deb and today I'm going to bring you my Make 9 2023 patterns I would like to make. So I'm also going to do another one called Fabrics from My Stash that I really need to use this year. So let's just get started. So the first one I've got is the Lagen coat. Now this is by Itch to Stitch and this looks like a fabulous coat. It's got princess lines, a yoke, a lot of seam work in it, a lot of top stitching in it. It is fully lined. It has a waistband as well. I think you can make a tie belt or not with it. It does button up. If you wanted to see what it looked like, Karina from Lifting Pins and Needles has, I think she's got a tutorial on how to make it, which is excellent. And that is one of the makes that I want to do. And I was thinking that I would like to make this in a magenta wool. So that's my first choice. I have not purchased the pattern yet. I'll let you see as we go along. The next make is a McCall's pattern and it's McCall's 8140 and it's View B, which in this picture is the black one. I'll put a line drawing up of this pattern. Now this is a coat pattern or what you would call a coat dress. It is fully lined, has princess seams, and I was thinking that I'd like to make it in a type of brocade. It would be View B, not the puff sleeve, but the smooth sleeve cap, sleeve head. So I do not have that fabric yet. I had some fabric in mind, and it was some Chinese brocade I bought when I was in China. But unfortunately, it's only 75 centimeters wide and I've got 3 meters, so there's just not enough fabric for that dress. So I will have to look elsewhere, but that type of Chinese brocade was what I had in mind for this pattern. Okay, the third one was a shirt for my husband. And as I told you in my last video, he is very, very fussy. And the men's troop shirt by Tadar Patterns, of all patterns, looks like it may be a winner. Now, this pattern has a collar stand, it has shoulders, they call it shoulder straps, but it's what I would call tabs on the shoulders. It's got an easy fit back, which means it's got that little pleat in the back at the yoke, and it has long sleeves. And I have bought some shirting to test this for him. And this is the pattern here. I will put up the line drawings if I've got them. I think I have. And this just really shows you, you can see this one here has got the tabs on it. A full placket cuff, which is what he likes. So I'm going to actually give that pattern a go and just make a test shirt before I buy any pinwheel cord, which is what he would really like a shirt in, and see how we go with that. But I've only ever used Tadar patterns before for children's wear. So that will be very interesting to see how that one goes. So that was my third pattern. Now the fourth one I've got is a pattern that I haven't received yet. I do believe it has been delivered to my work, so I'll be picking that up on Monday. And it's the, I think you say it, Taika blouse dress. It's Taika and it's by Named Patterns. I will insert a picture, and I really like this style of dress. It's a V-neck dress that buttons up through the front, and it actually reminds me of the Style Arc Armadale dress, which is a dress I actually wear quite often. I made an Armadale dress probably 3 years ago, and I wear it quite a bit. So it's one of my favorite dresses. It actually comes up quite high rather than being a waist on your waistline. The waist is higher like a princess line, which is I prefer that type of waistline. So I will be making that up probably in a viscose or a viscose blend. I'll have to wait and see when I receive the pattern and do a bit of a tissue fitting to make sure it's going to fit. If it's anything like the Armadale dress, I won't actually really need to put buttonholes in it. My Armadale dress doesn't have real buttonholes. It just has the buttons stitched all the way through, which is much easier if you don't actually need to use the buttons. So that's my number 4. Now my 5th one is a fairly new pattern, and it's called the Hoodie Hugs. And the pattern's by Stephanie Farrell. Now Stephanie has her own YouTube channel. Her YouTube channel is called Stephanie Farrell Focus, and Stephanie created this pattern. And this is just quite an easy wear. You can wear it as a dress, you can wear it as a tunic top. You can see there she's wearing it, I think in the top one, with the hood up and the long sleeve. She's wearing it with leggings. The rest of the time she's wearing it as a dress. And she decided that she wanted to make this pattern because she didn't want things that were tight on the waist. And everybody gets to that age where you're sick of things being tight on your waist. And she created this pattern. And this pattern is for sale on Etsy. That's where I purchased it. And I can't wait to make this dress. I'm thinking I'll be making it in a French terry. There's so many beautiful French terries out there. For instance, the ones from, I think it's Silhouette 6. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful patterns and coordinating fabrics. So if you wanted to put cuffs on it, you can get cuffs in a ribbing. You can get a coordinating fabric to do the lining of the hood. A lot of choices when you start to choose those sort of stories of fabrics, and very good quality, the Silhouette 6 French terry. I haven't sewn much French terry. I did make Phoebe a dress in 2022 for Kinder that was a May Gibbs licensed fabric in French terry, and I was very disappointed with the quality of that fabric. Now I've made her other dresses in the stretch cotton spandex, and it was a really good fabric. It just seems to be there's about 3 different patterns or 3 different image prints of the May Gibbs French terry that seems to be quite a poor quality. Even when after I'd washed it, because I always wash it and put it in the dryer when it's the kids' things, because their mothers will dry them in the dryer. Even when I washed it and put it in the dryer, very disappointed with how it was. And I even thought, should I bother to spend time actually making this dress? Because I think that the fabric's poor quality. And when I said that to Abby, she went, there's nothing wrong with that dress, Mum. Looks fine. So she can't tell that the fabric's poor quality, probably because she doesn't sew. But yes, not all French terries are created equal. So I've always been very happy with the Silhouette 6 ones. So I will be making at least one hoodie hugs for winter time to wear over a pair of leggings, or if you wanted to make it longer, you could just extend it. It would not be difficult when you look at those line drawings. Yeah, and you could make the long sleeve one and you could put cuff bands on it if you wanted to. So a lot of choices there, and well done, Stephanie. If you haven't heard of Stephanie Farrell before, you can check her out on her YouTube channel, and she talks all about the hoodie hugs and her trials and tribulations of when she created the pattern. So that was my number 5. And my number 6 is to create a pattern myself, so to draft a pattern based on the over-dyed denim coat. If you remember in 2022, and it's probably in October, that I completed one of my special projects, which was the over-dyed denim coat. So I over-dyed the coat purple. Now what I did was I started off with a very, very large size denim jacket, pulled it all apart, stitched it back together, dodgied it up, cut bands off, cut the bottom band off it and all that type of thing, and then added some skirt panels and gauze in between the skirt panels, so to give it some sort of flair. Now the only problem I had is that I really think the coat is way too low in the hips for me. So it actually sits on my hips rather than my waist. I would rather that band that is always on a denim jacket, which actually does go around your hips and not around your waist. But in this case, because I'm extending the coat and putting basically a skirt on it, I want that band to be around my waist. So I was going to draft a pattern in the style of a denim jacket. So princess lines front, princess lines back, back yoke, 2-piece sleeve, might do something fancier on the cuffs, and quite a fitted bodice part to it. And instead of doing gauze in between the skirt panels, I was going to do box pleats in between the skirt panels so that it really flares out when you walk, and so that it goes back really tightly and really straight when you stand still. So I really love the purple over-dyed coat that I've got, and whenever I wear it, I get a lot of comments and a lot of compliments for it because it's unusual and it's not something that you see many people in. And so I wanted to draft a pattern, and I have gone to school and learnt pattern drafting before, so I do know how to draft a pattern. So I wanted to draft a new pattern for it and to write myself some instructions step by step on how to do it. So that's one of my goals. Now that's quite a big goal because I would have to do a fair few toiles and all that type of thing for it, just to make sure, not even just necessarily for the bodice part, although I would do it for the bodice part, but to get a really good finish where the skirt meets the bodice. And I'm thinking a waistband on the outside and the inside where it joins, where the bodice joins the top, sandwiched in the middle of that. But anyway, I'll take everyone through that when I start to decide what to do. I just went and bought another 10-metre bolt of calico, so I've got plenty to work with. Now, my number 7, speaking of coats, and aren't I always, the McCall's 7847. Now, if you remember in I made this coat here, and I called it my teddy bear coat because that was the colour. I had a caramel coloured teddy bear when I was a kid, and so that was my teddy bear coat. And I made the long one with a lovely gold satin lining. Well, now I've got some fabric that's very similar to the caramel coloured fur, and it's a blue denim-y coloured. It's not dark blue and it's not really light blue. It really is the colour of denim, and I'm going to make a car coat length. So this is what I call car coat length. So not the really short one, but this one that sort of just comes to your bum. And my mother always called that a car coat length, a car coat, because I think when you sit on it, when you sit in the car, you don't tear the lining because it just goes up your back a little bit and sits at the top of your bum when you sit down, so you don't tear it. Because long coats, if you sit in the car in them, I actually pull it up at the back before I sit in, because I don't want to put all that stress on that lining, probably at the center, back, neck, and at the top of the shoulders, and probably the sleeves, and that's how you tear the lining in your coat. So I'm going to make a car coat length, although my sister did tell me that I need to be making a vest and not a coat. She's actually got a beautiful fur vest that she showed me when I was at her place the other day, which does look very nice. So that is an option. I think her fur will be a much shorter fur than what the one I have is, because her fur's got a zip, and I don't know, fur and zips, if the fur's too long, is going to get caught in the zip all of the time. But that's just something for me to think about, whether I'm going to make a coat or a vest. And this coat has no closure, but I guess you could put one of those fur coat closures that you had in the old real fur coats in the days when I had a real fur coat that I was consequently allergic to, so I didn't really wear it. It had like I think it's called a fur closure, and it's sort of like a very heavy hook and eye that's bound in like a black nylon wool. So that's probably an option if I wanted to close it. So that was my number 7. And my number 8 is to make the kids' Acorn vest. Now this vest pattern is by Love Notions, and I've only got it here and I haven't got it printed out, so I will insert a photo. Now this is a Love Notions vest pattern, and because I've got some of the teddy bear coloured fur and I will have plenty of the blue denim coloured fur left over, I was going to make Phoebe and Adele a vest each. Now we'll need to think about a closure for their vest, because it's not going to stay on their body if they run when it's on. It's going to fly off, unless I lined it with something like a flannelette or something that would stick to the other clothes that they had on. But it mightn't be as comfortable. I just find things with the satin lining really, really comfortable. But with a child, well, Adele will be 4 and Phoebe's 5. So with kids that run, it's just going to fly off. And I don't know how I would go putting a button in fur, but that could be very interesting. I'll take you on my journey with that so that we can see what sort of closure to use for a child's jacket. And once again, I don't think a zip is a really good option, because I just think it's just going to get stuck in the fur and it's just be a disaster for them. So that's the kids' Acorn vest. Now there is a doll's vest pattern that comes with that, and that's the doll's matching outfits that I've made for the girls. So that would fit their dolls. Can't remember what they're called, 18-inch dolls. So there is that, but I just think, is that just all a bit too fiddly to make a fur vest for a doll? Maybe I've got some leftover denim in there and I could make them denim ones. And to be honest, when I make the fur, I'm going to have to do it all at once because it just trashes your sewing room. There is fur everywhere. It's stuck on everything. You have to vacuum about 7 times before it's out of there and empty the vacuum all the time. And then you find it out in the hallway making dust bunnies out there. It is not something that I enjoy sewing with because it is so messy and you're forever rolling your clothes with a pet brush. But I really love the way it looks when it's finished. And I'll tell you who had some great fur. When I was watching Liz, the baker that sews, she had some fur and she referred to it as being called marshmallow. Now that fur looked beautiful. It looked so soft and gorgeous. So I might look up and see where I can get some of that from, because we all know I love a coat. So, and that would actually probably make really nice little coats for the girls as well, and maybe even Mia, who's 4.5 months old now, but she'll be able to walk probably by the time she's 11 months. So once she can walk, she can wear things like that. And I must admit, I think that that would be easier to put a button closure on that. Or it's much shorter, so you could put a shorter hair fur, so you could put a zip in it. I don't know how good kids are with zips, or if they prefer buttons, or that sort of thing. Velcro is not going to work for fur because it's just going to stick on the fur. So, okay, and the last pattern that I wanted to make this year is, to try and make sure that doesn't shine in the camera, does that make any difference? The Clio knit dress by Style Arc. Now, this is just a long sleeve winter dress in a knit, and I would probably do it in a Ponte. I've actually been eyeing off some forest green Ponte. So I have got a black Ponte dress that I've probably worn on camera before, because I usually do wear it a few times. And it's the high roll neck, and it was called the Neha, N-E-N-A-H, I think. I think it was a seam work pattern, but I think it's got a different name now. I don't think it's got the same name. And I actually wear that quite a bit, and I wear it with a belt or without a belt, or with quite a long scarf draped around, tied around it. I just thought that would be a very handy dress to have. The only thing I will do is make sure that I don't have that V coming down too low. So the older you get, the shorter you get between your shoulder and your armpit, which means that naturally, if you're wearing a bra, not if you're not wearing a bra, if you're wearing a bra, your boob's going to be up higher. So that V-neck might become quite low. So it's something I always like to check before I cut out my patterns, because I really need to have things that I can wear to work. And as I sit at the desk and people lean over my desk, they can see down your dress. So that is something that I will look out for when I make that. As I can see, I have already printed out that pattern, and that would be my 9 patterns I would like to get made up in 2023. Now, before I go, I should tell you what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Gilbert blouse. Actually, I think they call it a Gilbert top. And this is the beautiful fabric that I got in a bespoke box from Kristen from the Dahlia Society. And it was called Flora Australis. Oh, I knew it was. I was thinking Terra Australis. That means Earth. Flora Australis. And I must have washed this 4 times. So I've actually been wearing it quite a bit. And I was thinking that this is actually a really, really lovely and good fitting blouse pattern. I am wearing it just with a pair of ready-made jeans. In fact, they are a pair of jeans that belong to my husband, and they sort of had a bit of a hole in them, and then he put his foot through them and tore them, and then he put them in the sewing room, and I said, did you want me to fix those? And he went, no, I thought you might want the denim because you're always recycling something. And I thought, oh, good, I'll just try them on. I tried them on, and with a belt around the waist, they fit. And they must be 8 years old, so they're really soft, really worn in, fabulous jeans. So I just put a little patch behind the big tear in the leg, and so it just looks like it's got a tear across it. And I've been wearing them because they are very, very comfy. So thanks, Neil. And I tell you what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do another Make 9 for 2023, but it's going to be Make 9 of fabrics to sew that I have in my stash. One of them being the blue fur. Some of those things that I've talked about in the patterns may get made up in the fabric, so that'll be a 2-for-1. Another lady left a comment for me. Sorry, I didn't write down what your name was. So, and said, you know, if you wanted to do another Make 9, you could do a Make 9 new techniques, new sewing techniques. So it is something that I will look into, either new sewing techniques or maybe refining some techniques. I did try something different when I was going to make the pixie dress last year. On the interfacing, instead of either block fusing or fusing it to it and then on your raw edge running it through your overlocker or turning it over and stitching it, you actually stitch the interfacing right sides together to the right side of the facing and then turn it over and iron it down. So what I did was I did a test on the pixie dress to see what would give the least amount of bulk at the V-neck, because it's a V-neck, but it comes down with a sort of a rounded oval facing. So, and I didn't want that facing to be really, really bulky. And so I did a test on the right sides together, turn over, iron them together so that they become one piece, or the block fuse and sew it with the overlocker. And the sewing with the overlocker won. I found that there was much more of a ridge in the one where you actually stitch the interfacing on. So that was a bit of an eye-opener because I'd always wanted to try that, but then I'd always block fused and then I'd forgotten about doing it that way, and so I'd never had the chance to do it. And then when I was going to do it and I actually remembered, I thought, You know what? I think that's going to be a thicker edging than just simply overlocking it. So that's why I tested it out, and it was. So for some fabrics it may work really well, but the pixie dress was made in a cotton lawn, and I only use really lightweight interfacing. In fact, I use a lightweight knit interfacing for most things now. The other interfacings I've got are heavy bag interfacings, and even in jeans I don't use too heavy an interfacing. I think I use something a little bit heavier than the black knit I've got and the white knit I've got, but basically most things are done with the same interfacing unless they're a bag or, and as you can see, this is my bag interfacing, so it's actually very, very, very tough. I will come back to you with the Make 9 2023 fabrics I really need to sew. Some of them I've had in my stash for a while, and one of them is that blue velvet, but when I show you all the fabrics, I would really like your opinion on what I could make. Stretch velvet, quite a heavy velvet, and I always envisaged that I'd make a long velvet wrap dress. I have no idea where I would be wearing a long velvet wrap dress to. Nowhere. Nowhere I would go would I be wearing a long velvet wrap dress. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all back here with some fabulous fabrics. Bye.